As a prostate specialist with over 30 years of experience, let me be brutally honest with you. If you're a man over 60 and still doing this one habit, you're slowly destroying your prostate, and you won't even realize it until it's too late. After the age of 60, the male body begins to change in quiet but dangerous ways, and the prostate is often the first to suffer. Most men don't feel it coming. There's no sharp pain, no sudden warning. Instead, it's a slow, invisible pressure building up inside. You start waking up more at night to urinate. The stream becomes weak. You feel like you haven't fully emptied your bladder, yet you ignore it, thinking it's just aging. But what you don't realize is that your prostate is enlarging, quietly, steadily, and dangerously. And the worst part? For many men, it's not genetics. It's not just bad luck. It's one simple daily habit, something you do without thinking, that's triggering inflammation and slowly ruining your prostate health. You've likely done it today without even knowing the damage it caused. Personal experience as a doctor. In my 3 decades of treating older men, I've seen the same story repeat itself again and again. A man walks into my clinic complaining of frequent urination, interrupted sleep, or a nagging discomfort in his lower abdomen. When I run the tests, the results are almost always the same, an enlarged prostate. But here's what's shocking: when I trace back their daily routines, I almost always find one overlooked habit that quietly triggered it. It's not extreme. It's not something most people would even consider harmful. But over time, it inflames the prostate tissues, tightens the urinary tract, and pushes the body towards something far more serious: benign prostatic hyperplasia, or even worse. And sadly, by the time most men seek help, the damage is already well underway. Signs that prostate is enlarging. Most older men ignore the earliest warnings their body gives. And that's the danger. Prostate enlargement doesn't scream, it whispers. One of the first signs. You start waking up 2, maybe 3 times a night just to urinate. You tell yourself it's normal, maybe just age or extra water. It's not. That's your prostate pressing on your bladder like a loaded spring. Another sign. A weak stream. You stand there, waiting, the urge is there, but the flow is sluggish. And yet, men brush it off as just getting older. What they don't realize is that the habit I'm about to reveal doesn't just cause these symptoms, it accelerates them. It feeds the inflammation like fuel on a fire, slowly pushing your prostate to swell beyond its natural size, until it begins affecting your sleep, your confidence, and even your long-term health. The habit explained. The habit I'm warning you about is sitting for long hours without movement, especially if you're doing it every single day. You might think, what harm can sitting do? But here's the truth. When you sit for extended periods, whether it's watching TV, driving, or just resting in a recliner, you're placing direct mechanical pressure on the prostate gland. This pressure limits healthy blood flow, traps heat and fluids, and slowly creates chronic low-grade inflammation in the area. But it gets worse. Sitting too long also messes with your body's hormonal balance. It reduces testosterone levels and increases estrogen, which are both directly linked to abnormal prostate growth. In other words, the longer you sit, the more you're silently training your prostate to swell. I've seen it over and over again: retired men who spend 6 to 8 hours a day in a chair, thinking they're resting, when in reality, they're slowly feeding the very condition they fear most. Why this habit is worse after age 60. You might be thinking, I've always sat for long hours, I did it in my 40s, and I was just fine. But after 60, your body doesn't bounce back the way it used to. Here's what changes. Your pelvic floor muscles weaken, and those are the very muscles that support your bladder and prostate. So when you sit for too long, there's less resistance, more pressure, and more strain on your internal organs. Your bladder becomes more sensitive and less elastic, meaning it can't hold urine as well or empty fully. Combine that with prostate swelling, and now you're waking up 3 or 4 times a night just to pee, disrupting your sleep and draining your energy the next day. And don't forget the slower metabolism. Reduced circulation from sitting leads to inflammation building up faster and healing taking much longer, which is exactly why the damage from this habit escalates quickly in older men. You may have gotten away with this in your younger years, but now, it could cost you your sleep, your comfort, or even your independence. What I tell my patients to do instead. When men come to me with signs of an enlarging prostate, frequent urination, weak stream, or that frustrating nighttime urge, I don't just hand out pills. I start by changing what they do every single day. Here's what I tell them. Stand up every 30 minutes. Even if it's just for a few minutes. Walk around. Stretch your hips. Shift the pressure off your pelvic floor. This one small act restores blood flow and reduces inflammation naturally. Next, I say, listen to your body. Don't hold your urine. Many older men develop a habit of delaying bathroom visits. Maybe they're busy, maybe it's inconvenient. But this stretches the bladder unnaturally and pushes pressure right back on the prostate. And for men who sit for long periods, watching TV, reading, or using the computer, I tell them to sit on a firm surface, not a soft couch. It might feel comfortable, but soft cushions actually allow the pelvis to sink and tilt, putting more tension on your lower organs. You don't need fancy equipment. Just consistent movement, bathroom awareness, and better posture. These are the habits that undo years of silent damage and protect your prostate the natural way. The silent damage over time. Most men don't feel the danger building until it's too late. Ignoring the urge to urinate, sitting for hours without movement, or living with that constant pressure in the lower belly might feel harmless today, but inside, it's setting off a chain reaction. Here's what happens. The bladder starts to stretch and weaken. The muscles around it become sluggish. Urine gets trapped, not just once, but day after day, leading to urinary retention. That stagnant urine, it becomes a breeding ground for bacteria. This is why so many older men suddenly start getting urinary tract infections, even if they've never had one in their life. And if this continues, the next step is often a catheter, surgery, or a lifetime of daily medications. I've seen men who waited too long and ended up needing procedures they could have easily avoided, all because of a simple habit they didn't take seriously. The truth is, most of this damage is preventable. That's the heartbreaking part. And that's why you must act before the warning signs become emergencies. Emotional comparison, a tale of two men. Let me tell you about two of my patients, both in their late 60s, both with the same early symptoms, frequent nighttime urination, a bit of urgency, and some lower abdominal discomfort. The first gentleman listened early. He took action. Changed his habits. Started moving more, responded to his body's signals, and followed a simple routine I suggested. Today, he lives comfortably, no nightly bathroom runs, no medications, no fear of embarrassing accidents. He says, "Doctor, I sleep through the night now. I feel in control again." The second man waited. He brushed off the signs. Told himself it was just age. For years, he ignored his body's quiet warnings. Now, he wears pads, has had 2 urinary infections in the last year, and just recently had to undergo a procedure to relieve his bladder. He looked at me with quiet frustration and said, "I wish I had listened when it was just a nuisance, not a crisis." These two men had the same beginning. But only one took the fork in the road early. That's the power of action. That's the difference between regret and relief. Start today. If you've watched this far, let this be your quiet nudge, or maybe even your wake-up call. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. But pick just one small action today. Maybe it's getting up to walk after 30 minutes. Maybe it's finally listening to that urge instead of holding it in. Maybe it's simply paying attention to how your body feels. Because the truth is, it's never too late. The men who change don't have perfect health. They simply made a choice to care before it became an emergency. So take that first step now. Take care of your prostate, and it will take care of you. You deserve restful nights, quiet confidence, and a life free from unnecessary discomfort. Start now. Your future self will thank you. If this message spoke to you, if it made you pause and reflect, then consider joining us here. Subscribe for more insights like this. Because you deserve clarity, comfort, and dignity as you age. We're not just sharing information, we're building understanding, one honest conversation at a time. You're not alone on this journey.